Put that on here. On the t-shirt. Yeah. Okay. Yeah, Maharaj. Mhm. Nomagyanatmirandasya Gyananjana Salakaya Chaksurunmilitam Yena Tasmai Shri Gurave Namaha Ajanulambita Bhujo Kanagavadato Sankirtanai Kapitaro Kamalaya Taksho Vishwambaro Dvijagaro Godharma Palo Vande Jagat Priyakaro Karunavataro Vande Shri Krishna Chaitanya Nityananda Saharito Gaudadai Pushpabandho Chitra Sandho Tamununo Vandeham Shri Ramakrishna Abhaya Charano Sado Sukado Paramanando Sundaro Subala Priyo He Krishna Karuna Sindhu Dinabandhu Jagatpate Gopisha Gopika Kanta Radhakanta Namostute Tapta Kanchana Gourangi Radhe Vrindavaneshwari Vrishabhanu Sute Devi Pranamami Hari Priye Shri Guru Vaishnava Guru Parampara Ki Jai Bhaktivinoda Parivar Ki Jai Shri Panchatattva Ki Jai Gaur Premanande So, good morning, everyone. Welcome. This morning we'll speak a little bit about the initiation, Diksha, giving the blessing for chanting the holy name and imparting the Diksha mantra. And in this way, bringing some new members into our community and the life of sadhana. With initiation, it's thought that one receives a sadhaka deha. We've heard of the siddha deha. Deha means body. Siddha deha means a perfect meditative body. And then we have a material body. We know what that's like. So in between the two is the sadhaka deha. So it's a body of the practitioner, and it's a work in progress. It's been compared to the Prakat Lila of Krishna. The Prakat Lila of Krishna means the manifest Lila on earth, which is spiritual, but there are material elements that are involved. Sometimes there are even demons like Kamsa in the midst of the Prakat Lila. What's he doing there? Right? But as you know, Krishna prevails in all instances. So with a sadhaka deha, we're equipped to prevail, despite the fact that it being a work in progress, there will be things that try to hold us back, if you will. Basically, the material identity that we have is constituted of our likes and dislikes. What distinguishes one person from another is their likes and dislikes. And that'll have some bearing on their looks and so on over time. And our likes and dislikes are determined by contacting sense objects with our senses. So we contact the sense objects with our senses, for the pleasure of our senses, and a material identity, really kind of a psychic identity arises out of it, right? Of my likes and dislikes. And, and as I've said before, the I that arises out of this my means that I think things are mine. I acquire things and so forth, and through my senses is very vacuous, just like the my is, because nothing really belongs to us. We can't keep anything. So this is the false I, right? Now that it should be noted that this false ego, which is an English translation of the word ahankar, is often misunderstood. The false ego, or the ahankar, is a metaphysical identification, if you will. And in the context of that misidentification with matter, we have in the antakar, in the subtle body, we have a chitta, buddhi, manas, and ahankar. So the chitta is kind of a subtle organ, if you will, by which we become aware of something. Let us say we hear a sound, so we become aware of it. There's a sound, I'm aware of it. And then with our buddhi, with our power of discrimination, we determine what type of sound it is. And with our manas, we decide whether we like it or don't like it. I like it, accepting or rejecting. This is the mind. I like this, I don't like that, right? And so an identity forms. That we call ahankar. But really, this identity is like in a larger sense, is a misidentification with matter. And to uproot the ahankar will not be a psychological exercise. That will be a spiritual exercise. Psychology is well and good, and it has its purpose, but it doesn't have the purpose or the power to disconnect us from what Schopenhauer called the world not. The world not, which many people who appreciate him don't understand what he meant, but given our background with Hindu culture and so forth, where he drew his eyes from, it's easy for us to understand the world not. Hridaya Grantha, it's called in the Bhagavatam. So to untie that knot, this is a big task, and it requires more than any mental, physical, or intellectual prowess that we have individually or collectively to untie that knot and free us. Chaitanya Mahaprabhu, of course, has shown by example the way, which is Nam Sankirtan. So this is a trans-rational exercise. Now, that said, we have a psychological ego as well. So that's another thing. So these two things shouldn't be confused, right? Just by becoming psychologically well-balanced human being, which is a big accomplishment in this age, is not going to free you from material existence. It's not going to untie the world knot, the ahankar. However, because as much as balance, having balance, if you will, is symptomatic of sattva. It's yogic, the balance, sama. Our life is full of ups and downs, right? We are elevated by the good times, which are just in progress towards the bad times. That's how it works, right? So you have to think, as good as it gets is as bad as it gets also. So expect that, right? And that's not going to change when you get initiated and receive the mantra. that's going to continue. But what strength you can get from the mantra, among other things, at least in the beginning, is with the good siksha that should accompany it, good instruction that should accompany it, as we give, then the ability to understand the ups and downs for what they are, and not get carried away by them, to see them for what they are, and be prepared for them. Most people are just blindsided, they struggle for the ups, and then they're just blindsided by the down of it. Uh, the girl is looking for Prince Charming, and he turns into who knows what, a monster. It happens. Just like in dreams, that can happen. So it can happen in the physical world as well. It just takes a little more time. So it's realistic. We got a realistic perspective on the world and what it will be like for us going forward as in the life of a sadhaka. Should be a wise person who now has received the mantra, and this is the solution to all the problems, to untying this ahankara. Now, as much as I said, as psychological balance is is uh, uh, equates really with sattva. Amongst the modes of nature, we have tamas, rajas, and sattva, right? So tamas is a dark mode, and one finds pleasure in tamas just for the pleasure of it, regardless of whether it may be good for me or not. In sattva, in rajas, we find pleasure in improving our situation, our life, moving up the social or economic ladder, or whatever it may be, improving the world and so forth. It can be noble, like the work of a great king or a famous, who was the guy here who freed us from the Soviet Union? What? Yeltsin. Go. Yeah. Well, he was on the other. He was on the other side, but he helped. Yeah. So, anyway, every country has their heroes. Their politically great kings of the past, great leaders, and so forth. So, it's a noble course, to accept the needs of the country over the needs of the family and the individual, and so forth. This is Rajaguna. And then look at another way. Tamaguna is pain, is pleasure for the sake of pleasure. Rajaguna is we look at it like no pain, and no gain. There's no gain in Sattva and Tamaguna, and in Rajaguna, we think there's no gain without pain. So, and in Sattva, we think that the pain is the gain. Pain is the gain. Giving is receiving. So at any rate, with psychological balance, we may find ourselves in a better position to apply ourselves in the life of a sadhaka, because as much as we're out of psychological balance, well, then it can create problems, distractions for us, and so on and so forth. So we need to have a willingness to work on ourselves, if you will, and make the practice, the culture of the mantra, the center of our lives. And in this way, unravel untie the ahankar. And because of the way in which we do it, we untie one knot only to tie another. So, as I said before, I am is a reality that we can't get away from, and we don't want to. I am is always with you. I am, I exist, I exist, I exist. Now, the problem is that sometimes we think I am this or I am that. That's a problem because it's not true. And those identities change. Right? I'm Indian, I'm American, I'm young, I'll become old. I could change my nation, I could change my gender practically with medical assistance, and so on and so forth. So all these things, this and that, I am this, I am that, it's always changing. So you can see how much bigger I am is than I am this or I am that, because it is consistent, right? So while we're identifying with this or that, we have to reflect on the larger I, that I am. And that I am is not part of the ahankar. This and that is part of the ahankar, but that I am is not. And that's it. The way in which we untie this knot results in tying another knot. Therefore, instead of saying, I am this or I am that, which is very small and narrow, to say that I am is very big. But much bigger than that is, I am a gopa. I am a gopi. That's the other knot. Very big. Very big identity, right? To come in close contact with Gopal Krishna. Even the love of the devotee is what makes for Gopal Krishna. Without the love of Krishna, Krishna is Brahman, right? This Brahman, the bhakti that makes him move, makes the omnipresent and the omniscient move. How could something that's everywhere move? That's the power of bhakti, goodness. And who's all-knowing becomes unknowing. That is Krishna. He doesn't know. He's not sure if Radha loves him or not. He needs help in the context of the Leela. So we'll be there to give him help as a Gopa or as a Gopi, right? This is a very big, big, big identity and a very powerful way to, at the same time, untie that knot, because the knot of material existence is such that we perceive ourselves as the center. We don't walk around thinking I'm the center of everything, but implicitly we do. We see things in terms of how they'll work for us, and so on and so forth. And so in the realm of karma, we're taking. So we owe. I owe, so off to work I go. The more we take, the more we actually end up with a debt. You know, in a modern world, you can get a mortgage on a house. It's a great deal. You can pay a certain percentage down, and you get a mortgage, and there you go. You just have to read the fine print, because the house cost, $100,000, but then by the time you're done paying it after 30 years, it costs, $500,000. So you have to read the small print, right? So, such is the realm of karma, taking and owing, realm of exploitation, if you will. And so that is we can also describe it as the being driven by the enjoying spirit. Now, a wise person, in the true sense of the term, a jnani, will see the futility of such, of taking, and what is the cost. You have this statement about the generosity of the Hindu sacred texts with regard to meat eaters. Someone likes to eat goat meat, so there's a mantra and a sacrifice that you can do to eat goat's meat. Not part of the scripture that pertains to our path, but the scripture is broad. It tries to include all kinds of people in a gradual way, and so this is how it does it with regard to this particular appetite, if you will. Yes, you can eat meat. You have to sacrifice the goat at night on the dark moon, and you have to part this into his ear, mamsa, mamsa. It means me, he, me, he. And the implication is that now I'm slaughtering you, and in the next life you can slaughter me. So how long are you going to go on doing that? This doesn't take too much smartness, too much to think. That's not a good idea, right? Just for the pleasure of my tongue. And of course, there are many other much more palatable things to place on the tongue and nourish ourselves by, right? So it's for a smaller sector of the society, if you will. But a wise person will figure out the whole thing, is what I'm saying. There was, why shall I? So take, because by taking I owe, and I have to work, struggle, And I don't want to struggle. I don't want to work. I want to relax. I don't want to do anything, really. Uh, and and so to stop taking, right, when we are in a trajectory of taking with momentum since the time immemorial is a formidable task. Formidable task. We're going in a certain direction for since time immemorial, life after life after life in material existence, exploiting, taking, and we're keeping the lives going because we're in the karmic realm, and the momentum is tremendous. Now you come to human life and you learn about gyan, and the implication is, okay, I should stop doing this, right? Okay, that's why Krishna says in the Gita to Arjuna, be careful, don't disturb people's minds, ordinary people. Talk to them about gyan, it won't help. It's like, what can you do with that? And he warns them. But the same caution does not apply to bhakti. Because it's much more user friendly. It works with the momentum and the trajectory that we are on. And it very powerfully converts the enjoying ego by way of affording us a life as a sadhaka that involves cultivating the serving ego. To stop taking is part of loving, but it's not the whole thing, right? And to love is to serve. If you love someone, you say, why don't you come home for lunch? Why don't you come over for lunch and I'll make a nice meal for you, right? So serving, you see, like it's the antithesis of enjoying. And to do it, we can work with the senses, stay in touch with sense objects. There's plenty of things to think about. If the object to which we serve is Krishna, well, as it should be, he's beautiful and he can be, in his form of his murti, for example, he can be dressed and decorated. You can go shopping for Krishna. You can't go shopping and be a jnani. You know? And as I said before, in the Gyan Marg, there's no friends. In the Yoga Marg, there's no friends. One of the angas or limbs of the body of the Gyan Marg is vairagya, detachment. It's not a limb of bhakti. We don't progress in bhakti by detachment. We progress not by vairagya, but by sangha, which means attachment. Attachment to devotees, attachment to Krishna. Of course, we can also use the word vairagya in a special way. It's a very special kind of rag. That kind of vairagya we're doing. We're cultivating a very special kind of rag. But otherwise, Rupa Goswami has coined the term yukta vairagya. It's kind of a practical type of renunciation. It involves identifying who to whom all things belong. Let's say you're in a shopping line to buy your groceries, and the person ahead of you drops a $20 bill on the floor and doesn't see it. Well, if you're a decent person, you're not going to like step on it, wait for him to leave, and then bend down and pick it up, right? Because you know who it belongs to. So knowledge of the proprietorship, then a decent person will awaken in them a service attitude, and you pick up the $20 and give it to them. So we put into the equation knowledge of the proprietorship of Krishna. He owns everything. Bhuktaram yagatapasam sarvaloka maheshwaram. It's a heavy statement at the end of the 5th chapter of the Gita, right? Bhuktaram yagyatapasam. Of all the yagyas or efforts, let's say, I'm the rightful enjoyer. Sarvaloka maheshwaram. I'm the controller of everything. He's saying basically, I'm the owner. I'm the controller of everything. It's a little bit like, oh my God, what's left for me, right? He owns everything. It's pretty heavy, control over everything. But then he puts it in perspective. He says, Bhoktaram yagatapasam sarvaloka maheshwaram suridam sarvabhutanam nattamam shantim richati. You don't have shanti, you don't have peace, because you're trying to be the owner, trying to be the enjoyer, and you're not. You're not the stomach, in my analogy, of the body, where food should be put, because the stomach is the center and has the power to distribute the energy of the food to all parts of the body like no other part of the body does. Krishna is the stomach. Whatever we give to him, he can distribute that energy. Right? Krishna's pleasure, as I said before, is one thing alone, and it's the pleasure of his devotees. So he's quite nice, actually. He's quite selfless, really, even though he's the supreme enjoyer. Uh, so he says, Suridam Sarvabhutanam. He says, if you understand that I'm the enjoyer of all things, I'm the controller of all things, I own everything, everything belongs to me, everything is for me, Suridam Sarvabhutanam, then you become my friend. Now, what is the position of one who is the friend of the person who owns everything, knows everything, controls everything? It's very, very secure, right? It's not what you know, it's who you know, right? Yeah. Uh, so bhakti is very powerful. It's not about a very forced effort to work against the momentum of our karmic predicament that has been going on for eons and eons and eons. Um, and uh, uh, by the strength of intellect, having understood the futility of the karmic pursuit, just to stop it, to stop it, and to uh, rise above the dualities of material existence. And so such people, such gyanis, they employ very um, um, difficult um, uh, practices like standing in the Ganga at Haridwar, Rishikesh, up to the neck in the month of Magh, on a dark moon night, and think there's no difference between hot and cold, because those are just perceptions of the senses. Or you've got guys sleeping on a bed of nails and uh, walking off into the Himalayas with bare feet. It's a very romantic idea, but could get a little bit difficult. The Gyan Marg is it requires also our own strength, effort, intellectual strength and physical strength, considerable physical strength, to be exerted. Yoga Marg, physical strength. It's very virile kind of a um, uh, path, and you have to be alone. Gita says, sitting alone, not too high, not too low. There's nobody around, quiet, right? So you've got no friends, and conversely, the bhakti path is thought to be arohana, avarohana, not arohana, avarohana, but it's a descending path. So our effort is there. We make an effort, but our effort is to get grace. That's very different. We we don't try to forcefully try to change the situation. We acknowledge that Krishna is much more capable than ourselves, and he can solve the problem. We invite him into our lives, and when we chant the mantra on our tongue or in our mind, we invite him to take over our lives and so forth. Right? In the Bhagavatam, the point I'm making is illustrated beautifully by Uddhava. Uddhava ki jai. Uddhava is a servant of Krishna whose serving bhava is bundled together with Sakya. Dasiras is neutral in relation to Sakyaras. He's basically defined by the dominant Dasya, but the Sakya is a component of his bhava. That's why when he comes to Braj, his bhava extends to Pranay, and he becomes a suitable person to minister to the gopis and others about why Krishna is away and when he will come back, and so on and so forth. Of course, he learns from them all, wise as he is, Shastravit, the scriptural advisor of Krishna in Dwarka, sent to the uneducated people of Braj to learn, mm, on the ostensibly to bring a message to them, but to have the message that Krishna gives spoken to them, only to have them, the Gopikas, repeated back with the meaning that he couldn't have possibly derived from, understood from it himself. Uddhava, stunned by this, he says, Shruti Brigyam. He said, this place is off the scriptural map. It's like beyond. Hmm? They look uneducated, but it is Gyan Shunya. Hmm? Knowledge that Krishna is God is absent. Hmm? It's a kind of a special, it's an ignorance, the divine ignorance that transcends any form of knowledge. Hmm? Because to love him is to know him. What they know about him is the result of loving him that no one else will know. And then the gopis responded. When Krishna Uddhava gave Krishna's message, they respond, I think this is what he's saying. And Uddhava's head was just spinning. Hmm? What is their position? What is the position of Braj? Hmm? But he's very dear to Krishna. And in Dwarka, he makes a statement in the Bhagavatam. He says that our renunciation will be, he's like, for the Gyanis, okay, you guys, you look at your long hair and your dreads and everything, you look overtly spiritual. Our renunciation will be this. We will wear the royal garments of Krishna that he hands down. When he says, I don't want to wear that outfit anymore, that will become our dress. We will wear the royal vestments of Krishna when he's finished with them. That is our renunciation. That means that his idea is that not by giving things up, but by serving Krishna, you will be more renounced. Service is a much more comprehensive way of cultivating. I'm saying the serving ego is a far more powerful means to overcome the enjoying spirit than just trying to stop enjoying, stop taking. And it's happy. He's wearing the vestments of Krishna. It's as if in our sadhaka life we've dug a hole, and we want to take our karma and throw it in the hole, in all of our anarthas and so forth. Right? The jnani will cover the hole, but it's possible that something could grow up. Right? The seeds of our past and material desires. You put them in a hole and bury them, and they could grow up again. So Gyan is not powerful enough to accomplish this purpose. Without a little bit of bhakti factored into Gyan, you cannot attain any form of mukti. Bhagavatam says it another way. Aruri Krishnena Paramapadam Tada Patanti Adho Naditu Yushmadangraya. Abhishuddha Budaya Vimuktamanena. Those jnanis who are jivan muktas, your Ramana Maharshis and all, these jivan muktas, if they don't, because he says they don't the Bhagavatams, because they don't respect bhakti, patanti adho, they get fall down. Yeah, he's a jivan mukta. Again, they fall down. If they don't respect bhakti. Statement of Bhagavatam. Without some bhakti, they cannot be liberated. They cannot attain videha mukti. Jivan mukti means mukti in this life. Prarabdha karma is there, playing itself out. And the idea is in the Gyan Marg that when it's finished, well, then you enter the Paravyam. But Krishna says, Mama Maya Duratyaya. Mamevi prapadyante maya metam tarantite. Mama Maya, my Maya, Duratyaya. Prabhupada translated it, is insurmountable. Somebody asked me the other day, why is Maya so like strong and powerful of an illusion? I said, well, if Krishna's going to make an illusion, he's going to make a powerful one. That's what he's like, right? Yeah, it is. There's no way out. Not on the strength of your intelligence, which is a product of the very illusion itself. You understand? Your body, your mind, your intelligence, these are all material. Mm. There's a gradation from gross to subtle, but they're all part of material existence. The intelligence we have, the senses we have, the physical prowess, and so is all a result of our karma. Mm. Right? So this is not going to get us out. This is part of the very illusion itself. But if we can factor some bhakti in, sattviki bhakti, bhakti's kinds take the form to appear within sattva gun, then who respect bhakti, then they can get mukti. But without bhakti, it's not possible. So here you look at all this work. You dig this big hole, you throw everything in, and then the seeds again come up. The devotee's solution to the problem is different. He or she will dig a hole, throw everything in there, cover it up, build a temple on top, start a kirtan. It's not coming back. It's not coming back. So this is the difference between stop taking and to give. To stop taking, it's a noble idea. Stop taking, understanding the ramifications of karma. But it's a little bit selfish because the reason I'm going to stop taking is because I know that I found it, I realized I've thought it out. Taking is not in my interest because the more I take, the more I owe, right? So this is a circle. I'm going up the down escalator. I'm not getting anywhere. It's smart, but it's self-centered. You see, karma marg and the gyan marg are both centered where? They're centered on the world. One wants to get away from the world, or one wants to get the world, own the world. One wants to get away from the world. So when your center remains the world, well, you remain in the world. Even if you go so high as to attain Jivan Mukti. Of course, that said, Rupa Goswami has a different idea of Jivan Mukti. Karmana Manasagira, and he says, Jivan Mukta Suchate, one whose mind, words, intelligence are engaged fully in the service of Krishna, that person is liberated in this life. So this is a different idea. Once I asked Prabhupada, if I just keep distributing your books, will I become self-realized? He said, you are already self-realized. Dismissed. Okay. So to be engaged, in these activities, you're not perpetuating material existence. You're not perpetuating material existence anymore, right? And what are you perpetuating? Eternal life, right? You're not just trying to stop the wheel. You're going to stop it and turn it the other way and get on it and go around. Like I've said, we move around the world trying to find love. When we get there, we can only rest for a minute, and then it has a circle of its own, an orbit of its own, with its ups and downs, but we don't want to get off. It has sambhog and vipralamba, yog and viyog. We enter through the low tide of viyog or pralamba of separation. And then this is for the sadhakas, the prakat lila of Krishna, which we've compared the sadhaka deha to. This prakat lila is in overarching ways characterized by separation. The prakat lila, the aprakat lila, is on the other hand characterized by union there. So we enter into the aprakat lila, an eternal union with Krishna, through the prakat lila, which is characterized by separation. But that's it in a smaller way. There is union and separation also. I mean, Krishna doesn't go off to Dwarka and in the aprakat lila for greater balance of his life on earth as he does in the prakat lila. The purpose of that is to showcase the love of the devotees in Braj who are where because the love is so intense there, we can understand he's more there than he is physically in Dwarka when he's physically absent from Braj, because the love is greater. Wherever the love is, that's where he is, for sure. As I said the other day, people sometimes ask, do you believe in God? Have you ever seen God? I've not seen God. I said, well, come on, I'll show you. I'll show you love of God. How can there be love of God if there's not God? Now we have to define love of God also. And it involves this unraveling of this ahankar, as we said, this metaphysical world knot, and so on and so forth, right? There are many characteristics to which we can, basically, the sadhaka is like a technician or like a scientist who just wants to follow the facts, not be distracted by emotions. We take the Shastra Chakshus and go with that. And sadhaka's life is thought to be just some subjective faith, imaginary, kind of perspective. It's actually very, very kind of scientific. It's very objective. Um, the results that we get internally, subjectively, well, we can't show them to anybody. People say, God talked to me. Okay. Great. Well, what did he tell you? Yeah. And then whatever he says, let's compare it to the Bhagavad Gita, because we know he spoke the Bhagavad Gita. How does it compare? Something to consider, right? How do we know that it's not an imagination, a mental projection, as nice as it may sound, and so on and so forth? Well, the one way is like this: compared with what Krishna said in the Gita, what Jesus said in the Bible, what's said in any other great spiritual texts, that all of which form kind of a baseline that all the different mystics of different traditions agree on before they start to disagree about the variegated nature of transcendence, which is a peaceful discussion, not one to fight over physically. Uh, so what was my point? So yeah, yeah. So this is one way. Okay, you say God spoke to you. Well, let's check it out, because we know He spoke in other places as well. Let's check it out, see if it conforms. But aside from that, well, maybe you don't believe in the Bhagavad Gita. I don't believe it's just some myth, or the Bible. You think some story that Paul made up, or whatever. Pauline Christianity. Okay, so uh, we say there are other symptoms. Now, the internal subjective experience you can't show to people, but it has external um, result as well, right? And so what we see, you don't believe in God means you don't believe in the supernatural, right? But if someone has conquered over sex, lust, greed, avarice, anger, is that supernatural? I think so. If you can find someone like that's once I was with Prabhupada in South India. Where were we? No, further south. I can't remember now. Memory's not good. But we were in South India, and there was a Pandal program. 50,000 people came to hear from Prabhupada. So he's on the stage. He was speaking from the fifth canto of the Bhagavad and the teachings of Rishabhdev. He liked those teachings. They were very heavy. Anyway, after the discussion, some people were allowed to write down questions, and then they would be spoken to Prabhupada, which was uncommon of Prabhupada, but he did it. So he was enthused by the setting. So one person asked, he said, Prabhupada, Swamiji, have you done any miracles? And so I was sitting right on his right, and there were some other boys there, and Prabhupada said, yes, These boys have given up sex. And the whole crowd went, ah, miracle, miracle. Oh my God. So, properly understood, then, love of God manifests with these characteristics that any thoughtful person will say it's not human. Humanity is a weakness. It's a weak condition, right? Our humanity, right? It's not necessarily bad as I'm thinking about, but to transcend the weakness of the human situation. So to be self-controlled, right? Sit and not be dependent on acquisition for one's happiness and livelihood and so forth. How can we deny these examples, as rare as they are, that appear in society, and they do so cross-culturally in different traditions in the form of the mystics? We can only ignore them because there's so few of them. They're freaks of nature, we can say. They're freaks of nature. But we look at them as great, as I said the other day, great lighthouses on the shore of the ocean in which we are adrift, telling us there's land, come this way, right? And become free from the tossing and turning of the ocean. I mean, think about it. With the Buddha, another Vishnu avatar, he sat under the tree. That's all he did. He sat, told some stories, nice parables he told. Sat under the tree. And how many Buddhists are there in the world? There's a lot of them. A lot of them. From this one man, what he did. And he's had a following for thousands of years. And it just continues. It's not going to go away. Right? Jesus, Bhaktivinoda's perspective, a Shaktivesh avatar. Now, people misrepresent him and so forth. That's true, but still, millions and millions and millions of people following him, or think they're following him. But anyway, you understand my point. They may be only a few, but look at the power that they have. What one person can do. Then you no longer can say there's only a few. Yes, a few, but the quality of them is big. Chaitanya Mahaprabhu, Krishna, in our tradition. So we can't ignore these people. Neither should we. They're to follow them, to imbibe their teaching. Chaitanya Mahaprabhu's teaching. This is in our interest, and it makes. What I'm saying to you is, it makes good sense. They have. We can't see what Chaitanya Mahaprabhu was seeing when he jumped into the river in the ocean in the middle of the night and was caught in a fisherman's net. His body transformed into ecstasy. We can't see the Radhakunda, the Jamuna Leela he was experiencing, but we see the external symptoms of him. This is very objective. And we also see in the intro, what would you call it? Well, the different mystics report, and at least on the ground level, they're all agreeing, right? So these things have to be taken seriously by human society. You can say, well, yes, it's good to meditate. It's good to, make the mind peaceful. Let's do mindfulness and so forth. We don't need these religious traditions. Of course, that's where you got the idea from in the first place. But you're so arrogant that you want to ignore it and come up with your own better idea that when you've taken and ignore the culture that you've taken the idea from. It's arrogant. And then we're still waiting for the first secular mystic to appear on the scene here, to get the results of the Buddha, the Jesus, Chaitanya Mahaprabhu. We're still waiting. Talk is cheap. Talk is cheap. So this is what we are entering into. This is what we are following. We're following Chaitanya Mahaprabhu. We're following Rupa Goswami, Sanatana Goswami. When we hear the reports, Krishnadas says, and people would come from Braj to outside, and they would their influence on the Braj was comprehensive. Rup, Sanatan, every man, woman, and child accepted them. Jiva Goswami says, I offer my obeisances to Rup, Sanatan, who are great in Mathura. I mean, the point is what? Everybody in Mathura is great. In Mathura consciousness, right? That's what he's talking. Everybody's great. They're great amongst those in Mathura. What is their position? They excavated all the places of Krishna's pastimes, got the patronage of big kings, showed an example of sadhana themselves, and wrote extensively about it. For the benefit of all the people, they institutionalized the ecstasy of Chaitanya Mahaprabhu, located it on the scriptural map, explained it. What was their position in Braj? If Sanatana Goswami would come into a village, everyone would come and greet him like a great uncle. Children would hold his hand. He was called Munda Baba, shaved head Baba. Yeah, he kept his head shaved. And when he passed from the world, every May on Guru Purnim in July, Guru Purnim, Sanatana Prabhu departed. And every man, woman, and child in Braj shaved their head. That's who we're following. Amongst those of Braj, Sanatana Goswami, the elder, Rupa Goswami, Jiva Goswami, Raghunath Das Goswami, and so forth, right? These are our Shastra gurus, the founding acharyas of the Sampradaya. These are great people, great people. See their books written hundreds of years ago, and they're selling like anything now, even in the modern world to us. What is their power? And then coming to the modern day, Bhaktivinoda Thakur, it was from the Calcutta media that he was dubbed the seventh Goswami. I heard someone complain, who they think, why they call Bhaktivinoda seventh Goswami. There were so many great devotees. There were so many great devotees between, the time of Chaitanya Mahaprabhu and now, and they're calling him the seventh Goswami. Well, this envy is a very unbecoming thing, but the reason he was called the seventh Goswami because his activities very much paralleled them. That's not to say that he was greater than everybody in between, but then again, he was pretty good. And what he did was, like the Goswamis, what they did under the direction of Chaitanya Mahaprabhu was excavate the places of Krishna's pastimes in Braj. What did Bhaktivinoda Thakur do? He excavated the places of Krishna's pastimes, Chaitanya Mahaprabhu's pastimes in Navadvip. Bhaktivinoda Thakur found the birthplace of Chaitanya Mahaprabhu by meditation. Through meditation, it had been lost. And it's a holy place for us, where Chaitanya Mahaprabhu appeared in the world. It had been lost over time as the Ganges shifted over 500 years, and as the vitality of the Chaitanya Sampradaya weakened over time, which can happen. We see it happen in our life. One institution is very vital, and then it may become less vital over time. Krishna tells us about it in the Gita, so don't be surprised if it happens. He says, Evam parampara praptam imam raja shayovidu sakalena mahata yoganashta parantapa. I'll correct the situation, you don't worry. I'll send a Bhaktivinoda. Some people feel there was a crisis with the disappearance of Prabhupada. So the solution was to stop the parampara. That's called the Ritvik Vad. The parampara is the very solution that Krishna gives when there's a problem. Right? One means one after another, right? So Bhaktivinoda, he had this vision to put Chaitanya Mahaprabhu's teaching on the world stage with the world's other well-known religions and so forth. And not only did he excavate the places of Chaitanya Mahaprabhu's pastimes, you can read his books, Mahatma, Navadvip Dham Mahatmya, Navadvip Bhavataranga, so forth. And the birthplace of Chaitanya Mahaprabhu, he found it in meditation. And then he only corroborated it with empirical evidence, getting old maps and so on and so forth that The people who didn't believe in his meditation, his subjective experience, he would give some objective evidence for it. Mm. And then he wrote over 100 books, mm, all of all varieties, confessional books, novels, poems, philosophical books. He saw at the time in Bengal that many people were chanting Krishna, Krishna, Krishna. Let's go chant Kali, Kali, Kali today. That they were chanting, but they weren't getting the results because they didn't have the Sambandha Gyan, which would enable them to understand the name of Krishna and the name of Kali are different. And to think that they are not is an offense. Hmm? So they weren't making progress. So he saw the need for Siksha. And he saw too that the vitality of the Diksha gurus was wanting, was lacking. Hmm? I mean, you should be very, very, very proud to be a member of what Bhaktisiddhanta Saraswati Thakur called the Bhaktivinoda Parivar, because his disciples, he would go here and there, and people would ask, "What Parivar are you with? Are you with the Nityananda Parivar or the Gadadhar Parivar, hmm. Or whatever, Shamananda Parivar, Narottam Parivar?" Hmm. And so they asked Bhaktisiddhanta, "What should we tell him?" He said, "Tell him the Bhaktivinoda Parivar. That's what it is, Bhaktivinoda." Because it was thought, well, these paribhas have to originate with the disciple, with the immediate associates of Chaitanya Mahaprabhu, and then come down from there. Hmm. Hmm. So Bhaktivinoda wasn't one of those. How can he be? But of course, that's not what we find if we look carefully. The Shamananda Paribar, Shamananda wasn't among the immediate associates of Chaitanya Mahaprabhu in his presence. Neither was Narottam Thakur. But because Narottam's wide, powerful campaign, we say Narottam Paribar. His guru had one disciple himself. Hmm. Right? Who was the guru of Narottam? Uh, Lokanath Goswami. Yeah. And Shamananda, well, he's famous for the internal reality that was so extraordinary. So it's not called the Gauridas Pandit Paribar, but that's the line that he was in terms of coming from one of the eternal associates of Chaitanya Mahaprabhu, Shamananda Paribar. So yeah, Bhaktivinoda Paribar, he's seventh Goswami. There you go. So many books like the Goswamis wrote, excavating the places of Krishna's past. I mean, there are other parallels. So it was a very objective kind of analysis for someone to arrive at that type of idea. Bhaktivinoda, the seventh Goswami, he was dealing with the modern world that the Goswamis in the European world could ignore. The Goswamis were here when in the world, our founding acharyas, when Europe came up with the heliocentric perspective. Hmm. And some traditionalists in India, Hindus, scholars, pundits, they tried to debate with the Western scholars from the Puranic uh, and there's the Puranic perspective and then the Siddhantas, which are like astrological books in the tradition. And they didn't fare that well. That's another thing. But the Goswamis ignored it. They ignored it because people were arguing whether the planets go around the sun or the earth. And we talked about this the other day, but they were concerned with the fact that the world is moving around the jiva. It's orbiting around the jiva. You're actually fixed, still. The world's moving around you. Right? You're the theater. The movies are changing all the time. You're the theater of consciousness in which so many movies are appearing. And then on top of that, they were thinking, and the jiva moves around the Paramatma. And the Paramatma is moving around Krishna, and Krishna's moving around Radharani. So their heads were spinning so fast, you couldn't take time to debate such an insignificant issue, which has only brought us some technological, material progress and maybe some problems along with it. It's well and fine, but it's not going to solve Janma Mrityu, Jara, Vyadi, birth, death, disease, and old age. It's not going to produce a supernatural result, right? So We don't ignore it. We honor it to whatever to what for what it is, and not allow it to be thought to be more than what it is. There are bigger problems; they're not solvable, but one mantra can solve it. Following this line coming from Bhaktivinoda Thakur, Pujapad Sridhar Maharaj said, "Bhakti, the idea came in Bhaktivinoda for worldwide dissemination of Chaitanya Vaishnavism. And my Guru Maharaj, he said, Bhaktisiddhanta Saraswati Thakur gave it some shape, the form of Bodhi Math. And Swami Maharaj Prabhupada, my Guru Maharaj, took it all over the world." Mm. We say, and Sridhar Maharaj told us that. And let's put it in perspective and help us reflect back on it and significance and so forth. He's someone that understood what was going on. We were in the midst of it and still are, and don't quite still understand it entirely. Such good company he was, right? So this is our line. And internally, of course, Pujapad Sridhar Maharaj idealized the Madhurya Rasa and my Guru Maharaj Sakya Rasa. So we have good guidance and presence of these streams of, Bhakti Rasa samskars in our Sangha. Of course, each Atma is in an individual. Rupa Goswami says in Bhakti Rasamrita Sindhu that different ratis will appear in different persons relative to their own individuality. Mukunda Goswami comments on this verse and says, the individuality being spoken of here is the Atma, not the individuality of the mental, emotional person. It's a very powerful statement. It says, each Atma, we teach in Gaudiya Vaishnavism, all souls are equal. Not like Madhva. He has a gradation of souls. But Baladev Vijayabhusan came and harmonized the apparent difference between Madhva and Jiva Goswami. Taratamaya is called, it's a gradation. That's a long discussion, but Madhu's point is that each individual has a private subjective experience by which they respond. So we can say karma, which is external, is what differentiates us. But we're all equal underneath. But we're all individuals underneath also. Therefore, the volition that we express in relation to karma is what causes the external difference. So there's an internal difference to all of us. Not that we're constituted differently. It's not like there are tamasic, rajasic, and sattvic souls. But no two souls can be entirely the same and still be different. That's not possible. All grains of sand may be made of the exact same stuff. All snowflakes are made of the same stuff. They're not different, but they have different patterns. So Mukunda Goswami is saying this, and this is something that Bhaktivinoda Thakur, of course, embraced, that each Atma is like if you take an acorn. You know what an acorn is? That's like a seed for an oak tree. Inside the acorn, there's a blueprint. Inside each acorn, there's a blueprint. The acorns are all the same, but each one has a different blueprint. And if you plant and water the acorn, that blueprint will come out in the form of the tree, whether it has two trunks or, whether it's tall or short or so forth. And sadhu sangha then will bring that out. What kind of sadhu sangha? What if you have equal influence of Sakya and Madhurya? Which will be the result? Will it be a combination? Will it be which one ever has more or no? Which one pertains to your inner destiny, if you will? Look at Gopakumar in Brihad Bhagavatamrita. He got the mantra, bas. He chanted his mantra, and he went everywhere. Right? Meeting sadhus of different dispositions and different realizations. Went all the way to Vaikuntha. And wherever he went, he loved it for a while. And his mantra took him there, but then he wasn't satisfied. Why wasn't he not satisfied? Because he had a destiny. You understand? Sadhu Sangha doesn't give us our destiny. It brings it out. Helps us to. This is part of Bhaktivinoda's emphasis, you see, because people say, without me, the Guru, you got no destiny. So pay up. It became an occupation, right, in Bengal. It had become so spiritually weak. Mm. This was an unfortunate condition. I come from the family of Nityananda Prabhu. Nityananda's prema is running in my blood. Therefore, therefore, you cannot get at that prema without me. You should be prepared to drink my urine. This is why you're teaching like this. Bhaktivinoda was not happy with this. In the name of Chaitanya Mahaprabhu was teaching this kind of thing. He saved us from that. He brought out Gaudiya Vaishnavism, its real dignity, and then showcase it to the world. And we have to keep doing that. This is Bhakti Vinod. Gopakumar went all the way to Vaikuntha. He loved it there for a while, and then he wasn't satisfied. Why wasn't he satisfied? You don't think he had a lot of bhakti samskars for for reverential love, dasya in Vaikuntha? My God, it just pervades the whole place. Still, he wasn't satisfied. He had the association of Narada there, Uddhava. They could see. I should say, he went from Vaikuntha to Ayodhya, Ram Bhakti. He liked it a lot, but then he couldn't stay. Except it wasn't working for him. He went to Dwarka, Goloka. There he met Narada. Narada could understand. Oh, I see your destiny. He said, talk to Uddhava. Because Uddhava had to go on to Braj, as we said earlier. So Uddhava told him what to do. And then, with that help and his mantra, he realized himself as a Priyanarmasaka of Krishna in Goloka Vrindavan. So you see, he had a destiny to be realized. Each atomic Atma has a blueprint. This is the idea. Rupa Goswami says it. Why one devotee chooses one rasa over another? He says, because of the samskars. And those are not material samskars. And those are, yes, bhakti samskars from sadhu sangha that correspond with a gada samskar, a deep impression that constitutes the blueprint on your atma. So this is what we want to uncover, and the mantra is the key. Not only does it untie the knot, the world knot of material existence, and free you from I am this, I am that, but doesn't leave you hanging with just I am, which could be profound but boring comparatively, right? Better to have loved imperfectly than to have never loved at all. That's that's Gaudiya Vaishnava. Better to have loved imperfectly than to never have loved at all. Karma marg is better than the Gyan marg. That's what? What are you talking about? The karma marg is this taking that we talked about. We become smart, we come to the Gyan marg, right? But the Gaudiya's point is, if you get stuck there, you go to no man's land. You stopped taking. You only got half of love. You gave up love. You entered into Brahman. Therefore, kaivalya narakayate. This is like going to hell from the Gaudiya point of view. Better you stay in samsara and love imperfectly and resonate with the doctrine of love as a result, how to love perfectly, right? That is what we teach in Gaudiya Vaishnavism. And that is a very powerful means, as I say, to untie the knot. It can take you from I am this and I am that to I am and more. I am a gopa, I am a gopi, right? As it may be. So, a few words about what we're doing together. And again, as I began today, we'll give initiation to some of the our new members. Join the Bhaktivinoda Parivar, who was Bhaktivinoda, the first Western convert. He was a Bengali, of course, but he was in Calcutta at the time, where the British had made it their capital, and he was familiar with Western thought and considering it and so forth. And he got converted to Gaudiya Vaishnavism through the Chaitanya Charitamrita. When he understood the Bhagavatam through Chaitanya Mahaprabhu, that was it for him, right? he was converted. He had, and then he began his campaign with writing to Thoreau and Emerson in the West and so forth, putting seeds here and in the Western world. This is a great thing that you're part of. Don't ever have doubts about the Parivar that you're being initiated into. Some persons, unbecoming as it is, even in Vaishnava dress, will express some envy for the Gaudiya, for the Bhaktivinoda Parivar. Bhaktivinoda had to, Bhaktisiddhanta had to experience that, and we may as well, but I'll just tell you a little bit about it so you have confidence in this line. Bhaktivinoda Parivar ki jai. So with that, we're going to do the initiations here, and what I will do is we will give Urdhva Pundra, Tapa, Yagya, Nam, and Mantra. These are 5 ingredients which have been adopted by Baladev Vidyabhushan with regard to imparting mantra, giving initiation, and Bhaktivinoda Thakur also followed this system. There are different systems of initiation given in Hari Bhakti Vilas, the last of which is impart the mantra, Bas. So that's the essence of it. But we follow the protocol of Bhaktivinoda here, and so we will give the where's the Urdhva Pundra? So come, ready? Urdhva Pundra means the Vaishnava tilak, not this Shaivite tilak, right? So this is very nice. This is powerful. It's powerful. You should rise in the morning, put on tilak. We put on different parts of the body with mantra, sit, chant japa. Then if you go to work, you may have to take it off in our society. But this you don't have to take off. This is the Kanti Mala, the neck beads. Now these neck beads are made from tulsi. And I will untie them once and you will not. Okay. No, from that side here. There you go. Okay. Okay. Very good. Now it's said that these tulsi beads are very powerful and they can protect you from radiation. I've heard this. But actually they are protective because I wear very big neck beads. And many times people see me and they say, what are those beads? Right? Mm-hmm. So you may have to be in secular dress to go to work. You may not be able to wear the tilak, but you can wear the beads. And people say, where do you get those beads? And then you go, where do I begin? What? And you have to remember, yes, I'm wearing beads. This is who I am. They remind you. It protects you, right? It protects you. So we've given the Pundra. Now we're going to give the tapa. Tapa means it means austerity. The sounds tapa were what Brahma heard at the dawn of creation, and so he went into meditation and austerity, and ultimately tapa means really devotion. We have Gopal Tapani, that which sheds light on the Gopal mantra. But in other sampradayas, and like the Madhva or the Ramanuja Sampradaya, for example, they brand the devotees with tapa, with the symbols of Vishnu. So you get a branding iron, time of initiation, they brand the symbols like a tattoo on your body. right? So they're making a heavy point, right? This body belongs to Vishnu, and they're just underscoring the point. Now you have a sadhaka deha. So our method is a little softer than that, right? Chaitanya Mahaprabhu, very, very generous. And that is to put a stamp like this on this says, there you have now put your head at the feet of Nitai. Okay. It's the Nitai stamp. Very nice. Okay, so that's Purdva Punda Tilak, Tapa, the Yagya. The Yagya, of course, is that accompanies the Mahamantras, Nam Sankirtan. It's mentioned in the Srimad Bhagavatam, where Chaitanya Mahaprabhu is described. Krishna Varnam, Tisa Krishnam, Sango Pangastra Pashtam. Chaitanya Mahaprabhu is he who comes, always uttering the sound of Krishna, the syllables of Krishna, is surrounded by his associates. And his yagya is Sankirtan. And those who have good brain, Sumedha Saha, they follow that. This idea. So now typically you may think of Nam, Sankirtan, to be out in the streets with people and so forth. You can do that, but chanting the Maha Mantra out loud on beads like this: Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare, is also a form of Sankirtan, because if you chant the mantra out loud, it becomes an anga, a sub-anga of kirtan. Now, if you chant silently, like this, then it becomes an anga of smarna. That's smarna. So, or you can chant in between, whispering, Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Rama Rama, Rama Hare. So Haridas Thakur, who was the acharya, right, chanting holy name, he did all three. 100,000 names one way, another 300,000 names a day. So several times in Chaitanya Charitamrita, his japa is referred to as Sankirtan. So this is the way of Chaitanya Mahaprabhu, right? So these are the beads for that. Now, you chant with the middle finger and the thumb, right, like this, and this is like a tree here. So this, you see this, there's the trunk, it's fatter, and then you go up to the top, it's thin. So you go down, chanting on each one to the top, pick a fruit and go down, come back down. Right, so it's 108 beats, and now you have to chant these rounds sufficient amount of time to make it really have a meaningful impression on your life. And this is a detail. So Prabhupada mentions, for example, in his Nectar of Devotion, which is a summary study of Bhakti Rasamrita Sindhu, he's going through the different angas of bhakti, one of which is taking vows. And he says that vows should be taken that one can follow, because otherwise they become counterproductive, right? So he says that with regard to chanting, I wanted my disciples to chant 64 rounds, but they couldn't, so I changed it to 632, and I couldn't, I changed it to 16. Of course, he left it at that, and it worked. But you see, there's a dynamic there that we have to appreciate. What is he saying? That this is a detail. How many rounds? And what will determine the number? Well, we should take a vow to chant a certain number of rounds that we can follow. And if we commit ourselves like that, dedicated way, and put time aside for that, so forth, and do it in a meditative way, then we should get a result. And what will the result be? That you like the chanting, then you can increase naturally as taste comes. That's the idea. So now you come tell me, my year, how many rounds you can chant? Okay, that's good. Very good, very good, very good. Okay, so now I give you other ingredient name, right? So your name is Lalita. Lalita Dasi. Means many things, but like Rupa Goswami wrote a drama, Lalita Madhava, charming Madhava Krishna. So You're a charming person. Krishna's a charming person. You're his dasi. So now come give me your right ear. Lalita. Okay, you've got okay. Tilak. Om Keshavaya Namaha. Apa. Okay. One more or one less? Which would you choose? Okay, it's one more. Okay, so next. Head up, head up. There you go. Om Keshavaya Namaha. Cham Jai. Okay. Move this thing. Popular name. I know the feeling. Where's Harijan? Come here, Harijan. So we stop here. What's the time? Okay. And then, Marge, what is your schedule for today? Are you going to be departing today or? Yeah. But, yeah.
Can you repeat names because I could not hear probably it's kind of
Yeah.
the mic.
Yes. Names Lalita Dasi, Lalita Dasi, Vidagda Das, Vidagda, and Ananda Dasi. And we all know Harijan. Will you be here this afternoon or? Okay, very good, very good. So if you, with your permission, I'll maybe take a little rest. My health is not so well, then I hope to join you again for lunch. And we have a program this evening too, right? Okay. More Bhaktivinoda ki jai.
Bhaktivinoda Swami Maharaj ki